minutes on Steve Wilkes. That's the last we'll say about him.
Yep.
Real quick, I want to touch on Brandon Aiyuk, and in particular, I want to talk about the fact that so many folks in the national media, and it's hard. It's a hard job. I did it for a couple of years. It's tough to keep tabs on everybody. But the amount of reports that I've read that say that it's impossible for the 49ers to sort of keep this team together is really, at this point, it's become embarrassing for these folks. And I think we need to hammer this point home. The Niners can create the third most cap space with simple restructurings. And they have no reason not to restructure a bunch of dudes because they're all the way in on this core. And in some cases, some of these guys are going to be injured this offseason. Like in a case of an Eric Armstead, like you're going to have to pay him regardless. Like he's on this roster. George Kittle, he's on this roster. Like there's no way you could get rid of him. You might as well restructure it, take that bonus money, turn it into regular salary, all this stuff. There's a lot of guys when you think about core dudes on this team that they could very simply, I mean, not very complicated stuff. It takes 45 minutes and a printer and you get a signature and you're creating massive cap space, over 100 million possibly. You can create 80. They won't. By the way, they have one of the high, I think they had the most cap space or second most cap space at the NFL at the end of this season.
Oh, they're carrying a ton into the year.
At least 15 million, maybe close to 20. And if you're looking for 15 to 20 million, hey, Brandon Aiyuk, there you go.
Right.
That's just on rollover.
Like just on Williams, Samuel, Armstead, Warner, Kittle, you get 50 million.
CMC.
Yeah, not even talking. Yeah, exactly.
You'll have to pay at some point.
Right. You're going to have to be in a Saints situation where you're like, oh, God. But,
there's a flip to that, though, where the Saints have not been burned as much as everyone thinks they should have been because they have been doing what the 49ers are now doing, which we had long advocated for on this show. They're doing what they should have been doing. The Saints have been doing it for like a decade, if not more. This was their year in, year out plan. And you can say, well, it has burned the Saints because the Saints have kind of sucked for the last few years. Fair enough. Can't argue with that. Doesn't help that they have a shitty quarterback. Doesn't matter who you put in there.
They've almost made the playoffs regardless of that. But despite being a bad team, they're almost in the playoffs.
Despite being an objectively bad team with an objectively bad coach.
Right.
Good luck with that, Clint. Regardless, when the salary cap keeps going up and up and up the way that it has, and every year it's like a shocker, like, oh, an extra $10 million. It really isn't that big a deal. It might end up being. The number might not continue to go up the way that it has consistently, save for the COVID year and the year after, for the last 2 decades. But are you willing? I mean, are you making a bet against the NFL continuing to grow its monolith status? Because I'm sure as hell not. I think that the salary cap is going to continue to expand and allow teams like the 49ers, teams like the Saints to a certain degree. I don't know. I mean, the Rams decide to pay the piper this year, so they're going to be in pretty good shape moving forward.
Yeah, I think the only counter is like, for example, like Debo. Debo got locked up by Trent McDuffie, and that was one of the main reasons the 49ers lost. It was also Kyle not really adjusting to that. I know the Z and X are different positions, right?
Yeah.
But you can adapt in the game and say, all right, well, we're funneling plays towards Debo. It's not working. Aiyuk is the only receiver. I mean, Jennings can kind of beat man-to-man depending on the situation. But Aiyuk can win in man-to-man situations, and the criticism that he didn't is objectively false. He got open, not every play. He did get stopped by Snead, who's a great corner. And that's how those competitions go, where sometimes the corner wins, sometimes the receiver wins. Novel concept. But the only thing about the salary cap that I think is the 49ers could wrestle with is Debo. Debo basically has 2 years left, and then some fake void years. Mm-hmm. Question is, how much do you restructure? Where do you want to take a bigger hit this year so that way in 2 or 3 years, say next year maybe, Debo looks bad this year, or whatever it is, you don't
Right.
think it's worth keeping him around, you can get off. Where next year you can actually trade him.
Yeah.
Because if they trade him this year, it's a cap nightmare. I just don't think they would do that.
No.
So that's the only counter. But that said, you're right. Like the cap keeps going up. You can keep restructuring, and
Beyond
you've got all these
expectation.
guys. And also, one quick thing: if you extend Ayuk, his money goes down. People
That's
don't
right.
understand this. He's due $14.1 million.
First round tender. Or
When
first,
you
sorry, that's
extend
his first
guys,
round payment. Yeah. If you're
that first year almost always comes with a lower cap hit. It
Mhm.
happens whenever they extend guys. That money goes down the road, and so
You
they'd
might as
actually
well
have more flexibility if/when they extend him.
they might as well actually eat it this year. I mean, because the only reason any of this is possible isn't because of fancy finance. It's because your quarterback makes a rounding error.
Right.
It's really, really easy to build a really, really good team when your quarterback makes literally $1 million of a $250 million salary cap.
Right.
He makes less that he makes half of 1% of your salary cap.
It's crazy.
1/250th is what he makes against the cap.
Right. Everybody should just do that. Just draft your franchise quarterback in the 7th round.
Another thing we've advocated for, right? Like, and we thought for a moment the Rams would do it. And then the 49ers would have Matt Stafford as their quarterback. And it all sort of worked out in a very strange way, but that's how it worked out. One team is trying it. The other team decided not to. And by the way, when the other team decided not to, that meant that they were going to have to eat it for a year. And because you can only have so many highly paid players and a quarterback making 30, 40, 50
Right.
as they do now you actually start to feel the pinch. Now you can do it. You can fill in a lot. Everything is middle class compared to a $50 million quarterback.
Right. The point is, this year, the 49ers can absolutely run it back. Like it's not even
They might be able to augment.
Yeah, no, they can for sure make moves in free agency.
Yeah.
And like, they're going to have to do something at defensive end. Like it's Bosa and Drake Jackson. They're losing Chase Young.
I forgot
losing
Drake Jackson
Farrell.
lives.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. He's still on the roster.
So did they.
It's not good.